mean, Ace is a pure talent.
You were giving your scouting report. What's your top two strengths, and what would be one weakness?
I ain't got no weaknesses. I got more than two strengths, big dog.
Love to be around me. Very having fun, uplifting. I mean, very funny. I like to be around me. I mean, very competitive person too.
Today we're going to dive into one of the most insane self-imposed NBA draft collapses I've seen in a very long time. We're talking about a player who went from being a lock for the top 3 picks to potentially falling out of the top 10 and losing millions of dollars in the process. This is the Ace Bailey story, and trust me, it gets wilder by the minute. Now, before we get to the content, make sure you drop, like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to get the latest NBA news for your device. Every like and subscription helps me afford dog food for Boba, right, Boba?
Huh?
And now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. You remember the 4-man I ran in my Luka Doncic video on Prize Picks? Well, that risk-free $25 hit. Now, if you didn't take that opportunity, you could still sign up for Prize Picks using my promo code microphone to get a free $50 when you make a play of $5 or more. And if you go into the description down below, there will be a link to join my Discord server where we've been hitting on baseball, WNBA, and NBA on a daily basis. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Let me paint you a picture of who Ace Bailey was supposed to be. This kid comes from straight basketball royalty. His mom, Ramika McGee, played in the WNBA. His dad, Richard Bailey, hooped at Houston. His aunt, Venus Lacey, won Olympic gold in 1996 and a national championship at Louisiana Tech. But here's what made Ace Bailey special. At McEachern High School in Georgia, this dude was putting up video game numbers, 32.9 points and 15.5 rebounds per game in his senior season. Kevin Durant called him a pure talent.
I mean, Ace is a pure talent.
DeMarcus Cousins said he was the closest thing to Tracy McGrady we've ever seen. Every major outlet had him ranked number 2 in the country behind only Cooper Flagg. Georgia Mr. Basketball, McDonald's All-American, Jordan Brand Classic. This kid collected trophies like they were Pokemon cards. But this is where Ace Bailey made his first peculiar decision. You see, when it was time to declare for a college, Ace Bailey didn't choose Duke, he didn't choose Kentucky, he didn't choose North Carolina, he chose Rutgers University. Now, this is no offense to Rutgers at all as a school, but to give you an idea of how crazy this was, Ace Bailey became Rutgers' highest ranked recruit ever. The plan was simple: team up with Dylan Harper, another top 5 recruit, and dominate college basketball. But that's not what would end up happening. Even with 2 top 5 recruits, Rutgers was trash. I'm talking about a 15-17 overall record and 8-12 in the Big Ten. They didn't even make the NCAA tournament. Think about that for a second. When was the last time 2 top 5 high school players couldn't even get their team to March Madness? But somehow Bailey's draft stock stayed high. ESPN's Jonathan Givony had him at number 2. The consensus was clear: Cooper Flagg at number 1, then Bailey and Harper battling for number 2 and number 3. And Bailey's numbers looked decent on paper: 17.6 points and 17.2 rebounds per game, and he was shooting 34.6% from 3. But if you looked a little deeper, you'd see that there were red flags everywhere. His assist to turnover ratio was horrible: 38 assists to 61 turnovers for the entire season. His shot selection was questionable, and he picked up 3 technical fouls, which is insane for a college player. And the red flags would continue to pile up even once his college career was over. Picture this: it's May 12th at the NBA Draft Combine. Ace Bailey walks into that measurement room thinking that he's about to confirm his 6'10" height that was listed by Rutgers all season long. Instead, he measures at 6'7.5" without shoes. The internet exploded. Fans started calling out Rutgers for basically lying about Ace Bailey's height all season long. One Eastern Conference executive told reporters that the shot making is there, but he's not that big in person. He's maybe 6'8" tops. In the NBA, 3 inches is the difference between being a unicorn and being just another wing player. And Bailey's entire value proposition was built on being a 6'10" guy who could shoot over anybody. At 6'7.5", he's basically competing with every other athletic wing in the league. Now, during his combine interview, when he was asked asked about his weaknesses, Bailey delivered a line that had NBA Twitter dying of laughter, saying this.
You were giving your scouting report. What's your top 2 strengths and what would be 1 weakness?
I ain't got no weaknesses. I got more than 2 strengths, big dog.
Some people loved the confidence and others thought it showed he was completely delusional. But here's the thing, when you're a prospect with question marks, the last thing you want to do is come across as arrogant in interviews. But wait until you hear what Bailey did next, because this is where it gets really crazy. ESPN's Jonathan Givony dropped this bombshell on June 17th, that Ace Bailey had been refusing to work out for teams. Not just any teams, by the way. We're not talking about the Los Angeles Lakers or the Golden State Warriors or the Indiana Pacers, who recently just conducted a trade with the New Orleans Pelicans to get their own draft pick back next year. We're not just talking about NBA draft lottery teams either. We're talking about teams that wanted to draft him in the top 5 of the NBA draft. According to multiple reports, Bailey initially refused to work out for the Philadelphia 76ers, the same team where Paul George, his biggest supporter, plays. Paul George has been calling Ace Bailey his favorite prospect all year, and Bailey basically said, "No, I'm good, Paul George. I don't want to come on your podcast." Bailey's camp told teams that they believe he's a top 3 player and he's looking for a clear pathway to stardom. The audacity of doing this during the pre-draft process is insane. You're talking about a player who just measured 3 inches shorter than advertised. He couldn't get his college team to the tournament, and now he's out here making demands. Teams started calling it perplexing. One NBA executive said Bailey's camp had rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Sam Viceni from The Athletic tweeted, "The public today is catching up to the front office split league-wide that I've been trying to explain for literally months now on Ace Bailey." And Bailey's situation's very close to home for me because this is a topic I've covered ad nauseum on my NFL channel Microphone. For those of you guys that don't follow football, this past year, Deion Sanders' son, Shedeur Sanders, was supposed to be at minimum a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. He went from projected first round pick to falling all the way to the 5th round because teams didn't like his attitude. And to give you an idea of what his attitude was like, this clip from the NFL draft combine should give you an idea.
If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the coach, then don't give me. You should know history repeats itself over and over and over, and I've done it over and over and over, so it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick me.
Now, on one hand, you could just say that Shedeur Sanders was just confident. At the same time, an NFL assistant called Sanders the worst formal interview he ever experienced. 3 teams told their owners to take Sanders completely off their draft boards. Does this sound familiar? Just like Bailey, Shedeur Sanders' fall wasn't about talent. It was about teams not wanting to deal with a player who seemed more concerned with his own agenda than team success. The parallels are scary. Both come from athletic families, both had early success, and both developed an entitled attitude that turned off professional teams. And this is where it gets significant. Every single draft slot that Ace Bailey falls is costing him millions of dollars. I'm talking about generational wealth that's just evaporating. If Ace Bailey gets selected with the number 3 overall pick, he gets $8.5 million in year 1 and $50 million over 4 years. If he gets selected number 6, he gets $7.2 million in year 1 and $43 million over 4 years. If he gets selected with the 10th overall pick, he gets $5.2 million in year 1 and $35 million over 4 years. That's $3.3 million less per year if he falls from number 3 to number 10. But here's where it gets really crazy. Research shows that top 5 picks earn 61% more over their entire careers than late first rounders. We're talking about the difference between a $250 million career and a $150 million career. Michael Porter Jr. is the perfect example of this. When MPJ was coming out of high school, he was hailed as the next coming of Kevin Durant, and it's not that far off. The guy was long, he was tall, he had a beautiful jump shot, but he fell to number 14 due to injury concerns in 2018. He still ended up with a $207 million contract. Now, Bailey has fewer red flags than Michael Porter Jr. did, but his ego might cost him even more money. So what teams could potentially draft Ace Bailey? Currently, the Washington Wizards have the number 6 overall pick, and in my opinion, this makes the most sense. The Wizards are rebuilding, they desperately need talent, and they can offer Bailey that clear pathway to stardom that he apparently wants. The Wizards have struck gold in the NBA draft before, primarily when they drafted Bradley Beal at number 3 overall, who turned into a superstar, signed him to a supermax contract extension, and then offloaded him for draft capital, where the Phoenix Suns are currently stuck with him. The New Orleans Pelicans might be trying to aggressively trade up for Ace Bailey. General manager Joe Dumars is reportedly a huge fan. They could package their pick with players like Jose Alvarado or Trey Trey Murphy III in order to move up, but they also just struck a huge trade with the Indiana Pacers, agreeing to a deal that would get the New Orleans Pelicans the number 23rd pick in this year's NBA draft, in addition to the number 7th pick in this year's NBA draft that could be packaged together to move up to number 3 in order to select Ace Bailey. With Zion Williamson's injury history, the Pelicans could desperately use another dynamic scorer. The Utah Jazz have the number 4 overall pick. If Bailey somehow falls to number 4, the Jazz are in full rebuild mode and could afford to be patient with Bailey's development. They've shown that they're willing to take risks on high upside players. And of course, the Charlotte Hornets make a lot of sense as well. Could you imagine a lineup with LaMelo Ball, Ace Bailey, and Brandon Miller? Having LaMelo Ball's playmaking with 2 young, very solid two-way players could finally get the Charlotte Hornets to the NBA playoffs. Now, this has happened in the NBA draft before, but I don't think it's anything of this caliber. In 2008, Michael Beasley had character red flags that teams ignored because of his talent. He ended up getting selected number 2 overall, and he turned into a cautionary tale about prioritizing talent over character. In 2014, Jabari Parker reportedly tanked his workout with Cleveland, came in overweight, seemed disinterested, and still went number 2 overall. And I don't think his attitude really plagued his career because injuries did. And I was really tempted to make a video on this, so let me know if you guys want a video on his story. But he's currently out of the league as a result of injuries, so I don't think him tanking his draft stock really affected him. Lonzo Ball famously refused to work out for the Boston Celtics, who had the number 1 overall pick in the 2017 NBA draft before they traded to the Philadelphia 76ers, and he only wanted to play for the Los Angeles Lakers. At least Lonzo Ball had a clear preference. Bailey just seems to not want to work out for anybody. Now, just 8 days before the draft, Bailey's camp finally scheduled a workout with the 76ers, but this could potentially be too little too late. Apparently, VJ Edgecombe also worked out with the Philadelphia 76ers and has stolen the momentum after his workout. Edgecombe did everything that Bailey should have done. He showed up prepared, interviewed well, and impressed the front office. And there's bigger issues than Ace Bailey's attitude. I mean, he shot 30.3% on unguarded jumpers versus 48.1% on guarded ones, suggesting that he takes bad shots even when he has better options. His free throw percentage was 69.2%, which is how teams typically evaluate a player's shooting potential. If you're terrible from the line, then the odds of you developing a solid 3-point jumper in the NBA is a little bit more bleak, but we've seen players overcome it before. His box plus minus of 3.5 was very concerning for a projected top 10 pick. The 38-61 assist to turnover ratio screams poor decision making, and on top of it, he just doesn't know how to read the room. Now let me know in the comment section down below, if you had the number 3 pick in the NBA draft this year, would you select Ace Bailey? Would you take someone else? And where do you think Ace Bailey is going to end up? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I don't know if you guys heard, the Golden State Warriors are planning something huge, and we can see them making a huge trade within the next week. I have a completely separate video analyzing everything, and I'm going to leave it in the end screen to meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.